Renfield talks about Renfield, Nicholas Hoult, who willingly becomes Dracula's familiar, Nicolas Cage. Many ages come and go, and Renfield now is at a crossroad. He wants to get out of Dracula's grasp, but feels like he's stuck. He cannot find the courage to tell Dracula, so he wanders in a counseling session, where he learns how to break free from Dracula. With the help of Detective Quincy Aquafina, Renfield believes he can now live a normal life. But with the Lobos attacking Quincy, things escalate to big proportions, leading to gory fights. The movie's opening scene is of Renfield, listening on someone talking about her unfortunate events that led them to seek counseling. Through narration, Renfield explains to us that he empathizes with the group, and much like this woman, he too feels the same. As he continues narrating, we enter a flashback of Dracula fighting a group of men. But it seems we didn't go far enough, so we go further back in time to the beginning, for us to understand the story. Personally, I felt the movie should have just started in the beginning, instead of narrating to us what goes on and how Renfield feels. Instead, show us through visuals. Explain to us with imagery. We could have begun the movie in that black and white style they had in the flashback, and slowly progress through time until we get to the present, be it a montage or two. Because we need to see just how manipulating Dracula is and how he lured Renfield into this toxic relationship he craves to get out many years later. We need to see Renfield debate whether or not he will choose, or through force, enter this new world of being Dracula's familiar, because the movie never really explains what the deal was or what he was doing there to begin with. It just stated that there was an opportunity Renfield saw and took it. Not to mention that somewhere in Act 2B, Renfield mentions that he had a family and he left them to be with Dracula. What could have been an impactful punch was just throwaway dialogue said by the protagonist to justify some sort of change, or for us to feel empathy. Worst part about it is that we were told instead of shown. We should have seen Renfield's decision to leave his family to be Dracula's familiar. That way, Renfield actively makes a choice that would bring forth consequences he wants to desperately get out of. Yes, he still makes that choice, but he only tells us he makes that choice instead of showing us his actions and his decision. By doing so, we are shown who the characters are, an explanation of what is going on and what the story is going to be about, and we would feel empathetic towards the protagonist. The second thing about this movie I'd like to go over is the overusage of VFX. There was a lot of blood and gore involved in this movie that it felt excessive and over the top. It may have been the stylistic choice, but I do say it was overboard. It ended up feeling like a video game, and things like this does not help it. Limbs were torn off, thrown, etc., and it lost its realism. Granted, going into the movie you know there would be very little, and having way too realistic gore can be quite unappealing to many. Though I'd say that having VFX that appears to be misplaced has a similar feel to it. And it isn't just visual effects, it extends to SFX as well. With every limb that is hit, the same bone-breaking sound effect is used, practically. I was unsure whether or not it were limbs being hit or broken with the amount of times I heard that crack sound. It also doesn't help that, for the most part, 80% of the blood was CGI instead of practical. It could have looked a little bit more believable if it was practical. And lastly, the amount of times the word fuck is said was crazy. It was said so often that I felt the only cuss word the writers knew is fuck. There's various ways to get the same point across without the use of the same word, or even cuss words. Overall, the movie structure didn't altogether hurt the movie because you still understood what was going on. I just prefer it to be shown to us instead of through narration. At least the narration stayed throughout the movie for the most part. Apart from Cage's last set of dialogue, the movie was still quite enjoyable. There was some good laughs, and the message about being able to stand up for what's right and getting out of a toxic relationship was pretty nice to see.